Hey guys, welcome back to Plots and Pots, where we dig up the dirt here, all kinds of dirt. Today we've got some moving to do. New plants going in, old plants getting relocated, and a case out of Madison County that's been sitting mostly undisturbed for 55 years. Before anything goes in the ground, I'm thinking about light. And as most gardeners do, between light and moisture, that's the most aggravating thing that we constantly deal with. Most people figure out every plant wants as much sun as it can get, and a lot of them do, but not everything. Some plants are built for the in-between spaces, the places where the light doesn't quite hit, where something else is doing the work of blocking. And quite frankly, some plants don't want the sun. They're built for the shade, for the cool, filtered light that gets through only when other things have grown tall around them and they just do what they're supposed to do. Hostas and begonias are two that we're working with today, and they are simply two plants that don't compete. They just wait for what little light is left, and then they make something beautiful out of it. There's a lot that happens out of sight in the ground in a small mountain community where everybody knows everybody and nobody says a word. Today, we're going to Madison County. So I've got these hostas, and they're doing just fine by the mailbox, but today they're moving. I'm digging them up and relocating them to a new bed in front of the garden. A little bit more room to spread out, a better spot for what I've got planned for this little section. Hostas are about as forgiving as shade plants can get. The number one mistake people make is assuming they need to stay exactly where you first put them. But hostas transplant beautifully, even mature ones. Dig a wide enough ring around the base, get under the root ball, and lift. They'll sulk for about a week or two, like a 2-year-old toddler having a tantrum, but then they'll settle right in like nothing happened. This new bed that we just created sits in front of the garden, still shaded for most of the day, so the hostas won't miss a beat. Same light conditions, just a different address, which will leave the spot open, and I'm going to fill it with wax begonias, one of the most reliable shade plants I've found. They pretty much bloom all season. They don't ask much. They come in all colors, and they sometimes look almost too saturated to be real. Part shade, consistent moisture, and they simply will not quit. There's something I genuinely respect about plants that thrive in the shade. They figured out a different strategy. They didn't try to compete with the sunflowers and the zinnias for the best real estate. They found the corner that nobody else wanted, and they made it theirs. The mountains of western North Carolina are a lot like that, Madison County especially. Tucked into the Blue Ridge, roads that switch back and drop and make you grip the wheel. Small communities such as Shelton Laurel, Spring Creek, Hot Springs have been there for generations. Families who know each other, grudges that last decades, and a kind of justice that doesn't always look like the justice you find in the city. And that's the world Nancy Dean Morgan stepped into in the fall of 1969. Nancy was 24. She had just graduated from Southern Illinois University at Edwardsville, and she had signed up for VISTA. VISTA is Volunteers in Service to America. It's basically like the domestic Peace Corps. Okay. The idea was you went somewhere that needed you and you helped. In Madison County, oh, they needed her, or at least they needed what she was offering. She helped create youth programs, create a youth clothing store. She drove people to their medical appointments. She was basically a community organizer in a place that had been overlooked and overfunded for a really long time. By all accounts, Nancy was that person. She was the person that meant it. She wasn't passing through for a resume line. She had already been accepted to nursing school in New York and had a whole new life waiting for her. But she told friends she wanted to come back to Madison County after graduation. She wanted to put her new skills to work for the people she'd gotten to know. She never made it to New York, though. On June 17th, 1970, Nancy's body was found in the back seat of her government-issued Plymouth, pushed to the end of an old logging road in the Pisgah National Forest. She had been missing for several days. She had been hog-tied with nylon rope and strangled. She was found naked, her shorts placed above her head, and she never made it to New York. Here's where the case gets complicated and frustrating and honestly quite frankly infuriating. I'm not going to go into the complete details of the politics of Madison County. Who knows who, and maybe why that's why this investigation took the route it did. But here's the gist of it, right? The investigation was a mess from the start. Multiple agencies had jurisdiction, local, state, and federal, and they spent more energy bumping into each other than actually working this damn case. Evidence was mishandled, leads were not followed, and in a small, closed mountain community where the political structure has deep roots and long memories, the investigation went exactly where you thought it would. Nowhere. 14 years passed. Then in 1985, 15 years after Nancy's murder, local authorities finally arrested someone, a fellow VISTA worker named Ed Walker. I mean, he was the last person to see Nancy alive. The case against him rested almost entirely of the single testimony of one eyewitness, a local man with a long history of providing false statements. During cross-examination, that history came out, and the jury did not waste any time when it came to acquitting Ed, and that's where it's been left. Nobody has since been charged with Nancy's murder. The journalist Mark Pinsky was a Duke University student the day he read Nancy's name on the front page of the Durham Sun in June 1970. Something about her story really, just would not, it gripped him and wouldn't let him go. He spent the next 50 plus years trying to find out what happened to her. He interviewed witnesses, he tracked down former VISTA workers, and following leads that law enforcement never followed. Back in 2009, the state medical examiner showed Pinsky something had changed everything. Preserved DNA samples taken from Nancy's body, samples that indicated that more than one man had been involved in the assault. And that detail stuck with him for years. In December of 2024, Pinsky sat down for a prison interview with a man named Richard Johnson, who was serving time for murdering his own 5-year-old daughter. Great. According to Pinsky, Johnson confessed to him not once, but twice, to being part of the group that kidnapped Nancy Morgan. Johnson admitted he was there, but when Pinsky pressed him on exactly what happened to Nancy, Johnson got vague. Of course he would. And he basically wouldn't give him any more details. Pinsky took what he learned to the SBI cold case unit. 2 agents flew down, sat with him, listened respectfully, and then by his own account, their questions started circling back towards Ed Walker, the man who had already been tried and acquitted 15 years after her murder. Pinsky walked away feeling like decades of his own research wasn't being taken seriously. Here's the frustrating part. As of late 2025, the SBI says it plans to resubmit evidence for DNA testing, but it doesn't actually have that evidence anymore. The agency doesn't hold on to evidence in unsolved long-term cases. So 55 years later, almost when this video goes up, a couple of days past the freaking day that she went missing, the case, it may hinge on either evidence that may or may not no longer exist, or the deathbed confession from someone connected to the men Johnson named. A son, a nephew, someone who heard something that we're never supposed to repeat. Pinsky's book, Met Her on the Mountain, was published in 2022 before the prison interview. His investigation is ongoing, and as of his most recent reporting, he believes he knows who was involved. He just can't prove it. Not yet, anyway. Nancy Dean Morgan's murder is officially unsolved. There's a reason I paired Nancy's story with this garden work for today. These hostas sat in the same spot for years, mostly unnoticed until today. They got dug up, moved, and given a new place to grow. And these begonias are going into the ground that is now sitting empty because of the hostas, a space that was overlooked until it wasn't. Nancy D. Morgan went to Madison County to help people who had been overlooked. She was doing good work, quiet work, in a shaded corner of the state that most people in North Carolina had never thought about. And when she was killed, that same shadow that she had gone to push back against, the closed community, the corrupt politics, the institutional failures, swallowed her case whole. 55 years later, somebody knows what happened to her, but the mountain keeps its secrets. And sometimes with enough patience, enough pressure, enough people who refuse to move on, it gives them back. If you want to learn more about Nancy's case, Mark Pinsky's book, Met Her on the Mountain, is the place to start. His long-form piece I believe it's the Assembly NC, published in December of 2024, is free to read, and it covers what he found in that prison interview, and I'll link that below. Next week, we're going to Alamance County and talking about a woman they call the Black Widow of the Carolinas, Miss Blanche Taylor Moore. Not the Blanche we all love from the Golden Girls, but another one. I'll be working with some of the roses that I've got in the yard, talk about a preacher's wife, and a very long list of dead men. And we'll do that one next Thursday. All right, guys, I appreciate you being here. Until next time, stay curious and stay dirty. Bye.